back in the studio, and I'm happy to say our sort of fill-in for a project today, or segment, is Diane Havinga. Diane is the director of this whole place we're sitting right now.
So don't goof off.
Oh.
I'm taking notes.
So you're taking notes on my behavior. Oh, and all the camera people and everything. Diane is going to talk to us about, that's interesting, your topic, the cultural side of resident life.
So what do you think that means?
Well, I'm not certain. It could mean diversity. It could mean, I don't know what it means.
So, resident life is not as big as general services in terms of people and scope, but in terms of programs that it covers a wide range. And a lot of times we talk about resident life with the health side, the continuing care, home support, home health,
yes.
At one point hospice, but the cultural side is really the life, I would say, of the community. What makes it run, what makes it happen. It's like all the activities that you're involved in would come under resident life on the independent side. And I have my cheat sheet because I didn't want someone to say, you didn't mention my program. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 actual programs that I would say encompasses the cultural side. So what do you think those 5 programs are? Can you name them?
Well, Channel 6 would be one of them.
That's one.
I don't know.
Okay,
I could name, the coordinators for all the rooms and all that.
That would be community resources. So there's 5. You named us, which is, of course, we used to be called General Services. We used to be called Channel 6, but we changed our name, GSV-TV. There's Community Resources, Pastoral Ministries, there's Special Trips, and Wellness.
Philanthropy, no.
Philanthropy is its own program.
Okay. And what was the 5th one?
Wellness and Fitness.
Oh, okay. Sure. When you mention them, I can understand. They're all part of our culture.
Right, and kind of what makes Green Spring to a certain extent. So I just want to kind of touch base on each program and kind of maybe highlight them. So because I thought we'd start with Pastoral Ministries.
Okay.
So Pastoral Ministry actually has 9 staff people when you count all their part-timers and coordinators and contractors.
And that includes anybody over at Garden Ridge.
Right.
Okay.
So they are the people who are in charge with your spiritual well-being. And it's not just for residents, but it would include staff, because staff can also utilize their services. If you're going through a difficult time, which always happens, usually on the most unfortunate days, right? When you think everything's great and the next thing you know, there's something that is out of the ordinary. So Pastoral Ministries could come, you could go to them, you could arrange to talk to any one of their faith, I will say, people. Some of them are ordained priests, and some of them are just, coordinators who have worked with the faith field. And so Pastoral Ministries is concerned with everyone's spiritual well-being, and they also run a pretty dynamic program, as you know.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to start with the fact that we tie very closely with Pastoral Ministries in terms of their faith services, because they have one of the channels that we coordinate, or I wouldn't say coordinate, that we run. And that
we meaning Channel 6.
Right, that's why we changed our name to GSV-TV, because it really encompasses the 3 channels plus the AV on campus that we're in charge with. So one of the channels is Channel 2-1, which is the chapel channel. And the chapel channel, when there is an event or service, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 times, because it doesn't always happen, it will be broadcast live, and it will also be taped for rebroadcast on Channel 6-1. So you have the Catholic Mass on Friday mornings, you have Village Churches, 2 services on Sundays, you have Green Spring Fellowship on Monday nights. So those are the 3 regularly, weekly. They meet pretty much rain, shine. If there's a storm, they're still meeting unless something drastic happens. And we broadcast them the following week. Now, the Lutherans also have services. The Jewish community also has services. They don't run necessarily or air every week, so you need to check with them or check our TV guide and you'll see that. So sometimes they have events, you know, they could have conversations, they can have concerts. Now, whether or not those events are broadcast live really is dependent on the people involved.
Okay.
So there's your pastoral ministries, and if you know where the chapel is, just go downstairs to the basement, and that's where their offices are located. Okay, so that's pastoral ministries. So community resources. Community resources has 3 coordinators, 1 on each community building, and I'm not going to talk too much about them because I think people know about them, but that's where you go if you want to form a new group. Or maybe you are part of an existing group and there's some changes that need to be made, or you need advertising. And I always get that question at least once or twice a week. Someone comes in and says, well, I want to advertise this. What do I do? Go to your community resource person. Whatever community building you're kind of attached to, that's the person you should go to. But I mean, you could use any of those 3.
Right.
And they will be the ones who will help you with the advertisement, make sure you got your room reservations, make sure you have the right room. And one thing that I will say is a lot of times people reserve rooms and then they'll call us and say, well, I need a microphone. Well, you're in the wrong location. So I would really emphasize to our residents when they're planning anything, you need to think about your AV needs because the classrooms do not have microphones. However, we have portable PA systems, so you can reserve one, check it out, and use that in a classroom. Or you need 5 microphones. But you're in the academic room, and guess what? They don't have 5 microphones per se. So, you know, room reservations should not only just be considered on the, you know, the date and the time and how many people, but also your AV needs.
And the setup you need for housekeeping to get them done.
And yeah, so it's not something that's that's easy to do, but the CR people know exactly what the rooms entitle, you know, how big, you know, you don't need the Hunters Crossing Conference Center if you're only meeting with 10 people, obviously. But if you want to watch DirecTV with your group, you know, like just the other day, the dance people came in to check to make sure, you know, July 4th, they like to have a big dance, and then they watch the fireworks that are on the mall. So they need DirecTV. Well, there's only 3 rooms that you're going to be able to get DirecTV. That's going to be the theater, the academic room, and Hunters Crossing. So that's community resources. And then we come to my favorite program. Do you know what that is?
No, I'm going to let you say.
Well, it's this whole group here, of course, are my favorite. They're my second family, I would say. What do you think? Is that a good?
That's a good thing.
I think
yeah.
so.
I mean, yeah.
So, because trust me, there are times when I'm talking to people at 10 o'clock in the evening, you know, during the weekend. Of course, we don't always talk about work. Talk about things important like the Caps and the Cubs, and then the Nats when I'm not rooting for the Cubs. But at any rate, so GSV-TV, hopefully people are watching. They know this is Channel 6-1. I don't have to really talk about Channel 6-1. Hopefully everyone knows about it. And then we have Channel 8-1, and that's, of course, just the TV scroll and music. And the biggest comments I've gotten about our new TV scroll is people seem to love it. They also wonder why it's so long. and we try to contain the slides, but we don't always have that opportunity. Right?
Well, part of it is, it isn't so much that they're too long, it's that you have to wait because you missed that. What was that room? What was that date? You have to sit there and wait. We can't access, it's not interactive.
Right. Which is why we try to limit the length. Right now, I think it's running about 20 minutes. We try not to make it longer than that. I personally would like it to be 15, so it rotates quicker. But a lot of times, we just don't have control of that. We try our best, and when holidays come up, like this coming weekend, it's going to increase because there's a lot more screens saying,
Sure.
hey, there's no trash today, or the dining hours have changed and things like that. But I do want to, before I leave my favorite program, I just want to say, you know, we are fully up and running staff-wise here. And today's show is being directed by our newest member. It's his second outing. So we're all excited because that means that Avon and I can take vacations now. We can
Watch
leave.
out, Elliot.
We can leave
they're
Elliot.
Getting ready to leave
right.
you here by yourself.
So you know he's really not fully baptized until he has run this operation totally by himself. And
but you know what? Even when any of you are totally alone,